一樣噶嘛，應該係嘛？咦，唔係喎，好似個秒鐘都一樣嘅喎，咁好嘢嘅嚇？唔係喎，秒針都一樣咁犀利嘅？哦，即係嚇？唔係夠鐘，但係我意思係我咁啱睇到2個鐘，我話原來秒針都一樣嘅喎，咁好嘢嘅？哦嚇？哦係嘛？哦咁犀利 ，OK。OK， 好，各位同事，我哋咧夠法庭人。
Colleagues, we've already formed a quorum, and it's time for us to start. We're scrutinizing Betty Duty Amendment Bill 2013. First of all, we have to elect a chairman. Nomination, please. Mr. Jeffrey Lam, I nominate Mr. Tommy Chung. Mr. Tommy Chung, do you accept the nomination? Yes, I do. Any seconder? Mr. Andrew Leung seconds. Any other nominations? Any more? Any more nominations? No? I declare Mr. Tommy Chung elected chairman. We can invite the officials to come in. Oh, do we need to elect a deputy chairman? Mr. Abraham Sheikh. Mr. Chairman, I declare that I'm a voting member of the Jockey Club. Would you please make this declaration later together with other colleagues? Do we need to elect a deputy chairman for this Bills Committee? Is it necessary to do so? No? All right. As the officials are entering the room, I'd like to say that when this Bills Committee votes on a certain subject, there may be concerns about conflict of interest or possible conflict of interest. So members may need to declare their interest. According to Article 83A of the Rules of Procedure, under that rule, at our meetings, members cannot move any motion or amendments or speak on those subject matters if they have direct or indirect pecuniary interest in the matter, unless they make a declaration of those interests. Before they speak, members should disclose such interests. Mr. Abraham Sheikh would like to make a declaration. Well, I don't think it is necessary to do so. Well, I'm a member of the selection panel of the Jockey Club. Well, I don't have any pecuniary interest in this, but I am concerned about possible conflict of roles. Well, yes, that's why I'm declaring that I'm a member of the selection panel of the Jockey Club. Well, Mr. Abraham Sheikh has made a declaration. Mr. Andrew Leung, I'm also a member of the selection panel. Mr. Ipok Him, a member of the Jockey Club. Mr. James To, a member of the Jockey Club. Frankie Yick, and then Martin. I'm a director of the Jockey Club. Mr. Ma Fung Kwok. Mr. Alan Leong, member of the Jockey Club. All right, so members have all made their declarations. As this is the first meeting, perhaps I should introduce the officials to you. Deputy Secretary for Home Affairs, Ms. Gracie Fu. Principal Assistant Secretary for Home Affairs, Ms. Winnie Zhe. Assistant Commissioner, Inland Revenue Department, Ms. Y.Y. Zhe. Senior Superintendent of Stamp Office, Inland Revenue Department, Mr. Hong Wai Kun. Senior Assistant Law Draftsman, Department of Justice, Mr. Lawrence Pang. Senior Government Counsel, Department of Justice, Ms. Angie Lee. Deputy Secretary, would you like to speak first? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As this is the first meeting of the Bills Committee, I'd like to take this opportunity to brief members on the Betting Duty Amendment Bill 2013. Tabled today is a legal brief distributed earlier detailing the content of the bill. I've prepared a speaking note for members, so I won't read out that note word by word. I just want to do an introduction. The amendment bill aims at adjusting the betting duty structure so as to match the two-way commingling arrangement. As members all know, Hong Kong Jockey Club Horse Race Betting Limited is the only licensed operator for betting on horse races, even outside Hong Kong. So I'd like to introduce the outbound commingling and inbound commingling arrangements to you. For local races, the Jockey Club can accept local bets. For betting activities outside Hong Kong, outbound operators can operate the races. If they manage the pools separately, they will calculate separately the odds for the races separately. If we have a commingled pool mode of management, the Hong Kong Jockey Club and the extraterritorial operator can, before the start of a race, at the same race and with the same types of odds, they can pool together the betting pool and calculate the odds. And then after the race, dividends will be distributed in accordance with the pooled odds. That is to amalgamate inbound commingling and outbound commingling. This is to guard against unlawful elements and bookmakers to carry out arbitrage activities on the same race with the same type of bets. This will help reduce unlawful betting activities. This is in line with the betting policy of the government. Besides, a commingled pool will stabilize the odds, thus guarding against huge fluctuations due to individual large bets. Under the present betting regime of Hong Kong, the Jockey Club finds it difficult to find a partner outside Hong Kong for a commingled pool, because under the existing policy, we have to impose a betting tax on inbound commingling, thus leading to a double taxation regime. This is not in line with the international practice in other jurisdictions, because usually if there is a commingled arrangement, there won't be double taxation. Now let me say something about outbound commingling. At present, the Jockey Club will form a separate pool to manage the local pool. For the same race outside Hong Kong with the same betting pool, a commingled arrangement can be made. That is known as outbound commingling. Under the existence for outbound commingling, the mode of operation for local races are the same. At present, the Jockey Club will run a separate betting pool to manage extraterritorial races. But the international practice is to have reciprocal arrangements for two-way commingling in two jurisdictions. So, after introducing the inbound commingling and outbound commingling arrangements with you, I will first of all introduce the provisions in the amendment bill to you. First of all, for inbound and outbound commingling, we propose to abolish the betting duty on external pools. So 6GD is to be amended such that only local race operators will be charged a betting levy on local races. In other words, the existing betting regime for local races and local betting will remain unchanged. For inbound commingling and betting outside Hong Kong, a betting duty will not be imposed. That is to abolish the double taxation regime. Secondly, for local betting on external races, we'll have a new betting duty regime. Clause 6 of the bill will add a new provision to the existing 6GD. After the amendment, the net income from bets will be imposed a betting duty for local races and external bets. And Clause 17 will add a new Schedule 3 to standardize the odds rates to be 72.5%. Clause 9 of the bill will amend Section 6GF to calculate how operators of local horse races can collect bets from external races and how net proceeds will be calculated. That is, certain fees and charges will be deducted to facilitate outbound commingling. Fourthly, Clause 8 of the bill will add a new provision to provide for the imposition of betting duties on external races, and the local operator will have to provide a guarantee. Now, the purpose of this is not to increase tax income. This is just to make sure that at the initial implementation of the bill, our tax proceeds will not decrease. So there will be an exemption period of 3 years. In accordance with the provisions, the government will have a guaranteed $175 million as a tax proceeds. That is, our tax proceeds will not be anything less than $175 million. When we come to clause-by-clause scrutiny, my colleagues and I will do a detailed introduction.
And now I move on to the response in relation to this proposal. We have presented something similar to commissions and panels before, and we've collected their views, and this has been fermenting for quite a number of years. In February this year, we have sought the views from the Betting and Lotteries Commission. We understand that the public and concerned groups are concerned that it will heighten the gambling atmosphere. The premise of the proposal is that it will not increase opportunities of bettings on horse races. The administration has not increased the number of race days and the number of simulcast races. The jockey clubs will not, as a result of this commingling pool, enhance their publicity. And we would like to say that the commingling pool arrangements will not directly increase the amount of dividends received by winnings, because the payment of dividends is on a pari-mutuel basis. Yes, the commingling pool will result in a larger pool, but the number of winners will as a result increase. So the dividend payment may not necessarily increase because it's a matter of probability. And in relation to concerns about gambling problems in Hong Kong, we will continue to work together with the relevant committees to enhance gambling problems and also to enhance our services for gamblers and to have a publicity, pathological gamblers. And I now invite members to comment on this, and we hope that this bill can be endorsed in this legislative year, and it will come into effect on the 1st of September. That is the racing season in 2013 and 14. Mr. Ma Fong Kwok, when we discussed it last time in a panel, we were concerned about the likelihood of heightening a gambling atmosphere. I am a member of the jockey club, but I'm not really involved in races. About the current arrangements in relation to overseas races, what countries are they? And what about the arrangements? You said that the jockey club will not change its publicity and promotional strategies. So what are the current promotional strategies of the jockey club on overseas horse races? What target groups do they focus on in their marketing strategy, and what type of races and what kind of punters? Does the administration have the information? Yes, I will try to answer the questions, and my colleagues will supplement. In relation to overseas races, we know that there is an arrangement of a simulcast. Yes, I can see that. And the number of simulcast races are capped. And when you ask me what kind of races will have the simulcast, I can tell you that they are Australian ones, those in the UK, in the US, and in Singapore. And currently it is done by a commingled pool. And as to the kind of punters, they are different from those on local races. We have done some analysis and we have explained to panels. In relation to betting on overseas races, the punters are not usually grassroots. You will have to be a big fan of horse races, and you will have to know the language, and also you will be able to make use of the time difference. So usually they are from the very country where the races are held. Say, for example, from Singapore, from Australia, they are familiar with the place, and they usually place bigger bets. So the majority of them are not the general grassroots. Paragraph 15, where you say that there are 10 races on race days and 15 races on non-local race days. So what are the arrangements? There are television broadcast of the simulcast or what? In relation to local race days where there are simulcast, very often there will be a simulcast, but if the time is right, on the screen at the race course. And there are chances that they may be broadcast on televisions at jockey club betting centers. But when it comes to local television stations, it's their decision. It's not the case that the jockey club, as a middleman, asks them to broadcast such races. We understand that there are time differences and the fact that local people who are interested in such races and will place bets are the minority. So local television stations don't really broadcast such races. So for those that are not on local race days, usually there will be a live feed at betting centers, right? Say, for example, Dubai. There is time difference, and for Melbourne, for the Melbourne race, it's on Tuesdays. I understand that the Dubai races do not accept bets, but I don't know about the actual situation. So is it the case that there will be television broadcasts, but not necessarily in television stations? I'm talking about Jockey Club. You will have a live feed. So the Jockey Club will have the live feed. Yes, but if there is a time difference and it's outside the opening hours of betting centers, then it simply can't be done. I'm talking about overseas races. You may not accept bets on these races. Is that right? I don't know the name of that cup. Say, for example, it's 3 a.m. and it's one of those 15 simulcast races on non-local race days. Are you telling me that there are times when the betting center is not open? You won't accept bets on these simulcast races. As if there is a race that is in the small hours of Hong Kong time, the betting centers will not open just for that. In general, these centers will close at 11 p.m. But is it the case that bets are not received simply because the centers are not open? But no, there are other ways to place bets, say, for example, on the internet or by television, by telephone. Yes. Mr. Ma Fung Kwok, any follow-up? Mr. James Toll? This bill will have a major impact on the public, so we need a public hearing. In paragraph 12, they said that there are bodies that are concerned about the fact that it might heighten atmosphere of gambling, but they say that it will not increase government revenue from this aspect. But perhaps can I first ask about paragraph 9 in relation to the second amendment. I think this is quite fundamental, because previously we have the betting duty, and now you charge a rate on the net stake receipt. So you ask the jockey club to give you a guarantee of income for the first few years. What you have in mind, I reckon, is that you fear a drop in the charity fund. So starting from your paragraph 9, there was no justification given. So can you tell me now, officially, what are the reasons? What I have heard from you is that you want to compete with bookmakers. When you have changed the structure, the payout will be different, will increase. That makes you more competitive. Well, how can they guarantee you the income in the first few years? Are there some kind of guarantee fund or something like that? What about the projection? Will it be the case that as a result of the change, more people are attracted to the pool, and as a result, the betting increase, so the net stake receipts increases? If that is the case, that means more people are attracted to place bets because of the increase in dividends. Then, in a way, it has heightened the gambling atmosphere. Who is to take this question? I ask members to refer to the legal brief, paragraph 16. It sets out the detailed explanation. To have a flat rate of 72.5% of duty rate. I don't know if Mr. To you can see it. This is to facilitate the jockey club in their negotiation with other jurisdictions by giving them a certainty in tax. Because with a progressive rate, there is uncertainty. So when we consider this arrangement, we do not consider it from the perspective of dividend distribution. This is to, when it comes to the negotiation, it will discuss the inbound and outbound commingled pools. When it comes to dividend distribution, this is not our consideration. As I've explained, that won't be the case that more dividends will be paid out to winners, because we're talking about probability. So how much do you put in, and what is the probability? I don't know if my colleagues would like to supplement. Mr. To, you asked for public hearing. Are there any objections from members? No? Mr. Liu Chong-kong? I object to a public hearing because I don't see that how such arrangements will heighten the gambling atmosphere. And if you have for some reasons, tell me. You can't just say that it will heighten the gambling atmosphere, and so you ask for a public hearing. Mr. To, I ask Mr. Liu to carefully consider it.
For a bills committee, in particular, when it involves gambling, it will affect many people. Even for the government, in paragraph 12 of the paper, they say that they understand that there are concerns about fueling the gambling culture. So if we have a public hearing, we'll listen to the views of various parties to see whether they're justified. In fact, we're dealing with a technical bill, and I also received some technical submissions which say that the proposed changes will impact on certain matters. Well, although they're saying that they have made preparation for this for several years, the Betting and Lotteries Commission did not conduct any public consultation. And as far as I understand, the Home Affairs Panel did not conduct any public consultation either. Now, this is already the final stage. Is it not strange that we are prohibited from conducting a public hearing? I'd like Mr. Liao to change his mind after listening to me. Well, I hope that members won't debate on this. Mr. Martin Liao? Well, Mr. Chairman, I have to say that I've not received those omissions mentioned by Mr. James To, so I don't understand their concerns. Maybe they're crucial. Well, maybe Mr. To can share with us those omissions that he had received. Then we can consider whether we need a public hearing. Any more comments from colleagues? As far as I remember, whenever a colleague asks for a public hearing, we'll try as far as possible to conduct public hearing. If we don't do that, we may be queried by others in future. I think most colleagues will agree that most of us would like this bill to get enacted within this session. But then filibustering is going on, and there's another bill on education, which on the 18th, Saturday, will be discussed, and there will be a public hearing. Well, we can use a Saturday, then we won't be affected by filibustering. Well, certain time slots have been given to me. Well, that list is being distributed to you. 15th of May, 8:45 a.m. to 10:30, and then 21st of May. Well, some colleagues will be otherwise engaged. Tuesday, that is, 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. That time slot is also available. Of course, some colleagues will be otherwise engaged on that day. 27th of May, 4:30 to 6:30. Mr. Abraham Sheck is not available on that day because of the other meeting on education. Well, a number of colleagues may be engaged on the 15th of May. Wu Chi-wai, Lo Wai-kwok, Christopher Chong, and then ESC will be held next Wednesday. I think next Wednesday may be too rush. Well, usually we have to allow the deputations certain time. Otherwise, they will complain that it's too rush, they can't come. So will colleagues consider the 21st or the 27th of May? My feeling is that the 21st of May may be okay. And for the other slot, on the 28th, we can discuss the bill amongst ourselves. I think many colleagues won't understand this bill, even for those who visit the race course very frequently. In fact, once you understand what the whole bill is all about, it won't be too difficult. So even if we have the deputations on the 27th, only Abraham Sheck will be affected. So we can have the hearing on that day. We don't need to wait for deputations' views to come in. We can proceed with the technical proposals. So we can adopt a two-pronged approach in the hope that we can complete the scrutiny and enactment of the amendment bill. But of course, you have to understand our timetable for this legislative session. Mid-July may have to be advanced. So 27th or 28th, which one is better? Mr. Abraham Sheikh? Well, Mr. Chairman, you envisage that I won't disagree, but I think there's one thing that we need to observe as councillors. We cannot, because of a timetable, work back to see by what time what bill has to be amended or enacted. I think for each and every bill, we have to scrutinize it very carefully for the sake of its future implementation. So I very much object to your suggestion that we have to observe the legislative timetable imposed upon us by the government. In fact, each and every member is putting his own time and energy in every meeting. Mr. Chairman, it's not that fair to me. I'd like to listen to both sides. Well, Mr. Chairman, I can accept the 27th of May given what you said. But I have to say that in Bills Committee, we must not be led by a third party. That's my personal opinion. I fully understand. Well, at this juncture, I'm on 5 to 6 Bills Committees, BSD, or whatever. Well, I very much agree with you. I almost scold at the government every year. By May, when we're about to go to recess, they hurried us into working very hard. Well, Mr. Chairman, that happened in the past. A wrong or an unsatisfactory piece of legislation is not good to the public. I have no intention to work for timetables for the sake of timetables. But I hope you understand what I was saying. What I meant was that we don't need to wait till the deputations have all come in. Oh, I understand. I just want to tell the government that I'm not willing to serve as their rubber stamp. I know that you're not a rubber stamp. Colleagues, what about the 27th of May? Any objection? All right, so we'll listen to the deputations on the 27th of May. If any member has any suggestion for any deputation, please tell the Secretariat. Mr. Anila, well, I support the 27th of May for a public consultation. Can we invite the Jockey Club to come as well so that we can have explanations directly from the frontliners? Yes, so we'll try to invite the Jockey Club. Maybe at the next meeting or any other time slot to see whether they'll come. Mr. James Stowe, are you on the same subject, that is deputations? Well, that's finished. I want to follow up on her answer just now. All right, a brief follow-up then. The administration told us just now that in the LegCo brief, paragraph 16, the government has offered us an explanation. Well, the concept is in footnote 7. Well, in paragraph 16, they say that we reckon that the proposal of adopting a flat betting duty rate at 72.5% may lead to reduction in betting duty revenue. And then in note 7, you say that according to the Jockey Club's projection, based on the figures for the 2010-11 racing season and its own assumptions, there will be a decrease of $12 million in betting duty receipts under the proposed betting duty arrangement for Hong Kong bets on non-local races. Well, this assumption and calculation are the only data we have at the moment. What about this $12 million? Will it all go to increased simulcast costs? as stated in the latter part of paragraph 16, that is, there will not be any increased dividends. That is, for local bets on non-local races, the dividends will increase. And there may be another possible phenomenon. For local races and local bets on non-local races, if the actual odds rates are not the same, there may still be arbitrage or switching. That is, they may opt for the race with a higher odds rate. And then, if in the past dividends are too high or odds rates are too high for a certain race because the attraction for betting may generate more gambling activities. Deputy Secretary, I think there are a lot of assumptions in Mr. To's remarks. I won't invite our taxation colleagues to explain. Yes, there are assumptions, but you ask what will happen under these assumptions. May I give you a reply later? Oh, you say later, if we can have the jockey club here? Then we'll have an explanation. In fact, I was about to give you an answer. Your worry may not actually exist. Well, I'll have a cup of coffee with you after the meeting and give you the details. Mr. Jeffrey Lam. Mr. Chairman, for simulcast of non-local races, betting duties may also be affected because both Hong Kong and other jurisdictions have betting duties. Does it mean that there will be double taxation? Because we have to satisfy Hong Kong's laws, and if you simulcast a non-local race, you may have to pay the betting duty of the other jurisdiction as well. And then, is there any restriction on publicity? Or are you saying that so long as the Jockey Club satisfies local legislations on publicity, it will be all right? Will the Jockey Club be restricted by overseas legislations on publicity and advertisements? Will they say that for the local pool, there will be a betting duty for the Hong Kong government, and for a non-local pool, there will be a betting duty for the non-local jurisdiction? So the respective governments collect their respective tax. That's why they can come up with a commingled pool. So the jurisdiction putting up a simulcast will receive proceeds to its own pool. Deputy Secretary, am I correct? Yes, Mr. Chairman, your understanding is correct.
Well, the duties are subject to a place, a local legislation. You see that the Jockey Club does not have vigorous marketing on these non-local races. Yes, the Jockey Clubs will publicize their own races and also on overseas races, but for the latter, it is more low-key. Mr. Yu Si-wing? I think they are concerned that bookmakers will make use of the difference in odds for different pools. Do you have any status on the recent 2 years that there are differences in odds that bookmakers make use of the difference to make a profit? You have to give me such information to justify why you make such proposals. In relation to inbound commingled pool. Well, in the past, that for inbound commingled pool, we will receive less in betting duty because, as I've heard from you, the betting duties are levied at source. So is it the case that the administration will definitely receive less in revenue? That's why you asked the Jockey Club to guarantee for 3 years $175 million a year. But what about after the 3 years? Are there any ways the administration can ask the Jockey Club to make up for the revenue foregone? In paragraph 12, you said that the administration has not increased the number of simulcast races. Is that subject to a time limit? Would there be any studies on possible changes to such arrangements? When the Jockey Club explained the proposal to the Betting and Lotteries Commission, they explained about the pari-mutuel basis. That is, the dividend distribution will not as a result increase. But Mr. Yu said that from individual races, one can see arbitrage. Well, I will ask a Jockey Club or my colleagues to come to explain to you later, because this is in relation to individual cases about arbitrage and making use of the difference in odds. I will defer to my colleagues to answer later. And in relation to the guarantee of $175 million, the guarantee will last for 3 years. Afterwards, the duty will be collected under the future taxation and legislative framework. This is just to guarantee the initial the government revenue for the initial period. But for the future, is subject to a number of factors. There is no guarantee that the size of bets will increase, and the situation may change. So for the future, it's not done by way of a guarantee. The third question, you were asked about the increased number of races to be increased. It will not be increased, or is it the case that after 3 years the number of races may be increased? Well, the current condition is imposed under the license. If there is a request from the Jockey Club, then we will deal with it by way of change of conditions in license renewal. It's not subject to approval from the LegCo, right? No, it's in relation to the license renewal and its conditions. Mr. Yu? Well, we will have the public hearing, and the Jockey Club will come to explain to us. Well, so can you I ask for clearer information in relation to the arbitrage and also the difference of odds. You have to show us the extent to justify your proposal. Let me remind officials that if you ask the Jockey Club to talk to us, please ask them to give us an information paper maybe 2 or 3 days before the meeting, so that we will get time to read it. Although we don't want to be blamed for a slow progress simply because you give us the documents late and we have to spend time to read them. Mr. Ibrahim Sheikh, I have to declare I am a director of the Macau Jockey Club. Paragraph 21. In relation to the $175 million, how is it arrived at? So how much In monetary terms, are we talking about under this proposal? If we don't look at it from the monetary perspective, where else should we look at it? The calculation of the guarantee amount is based on the average income of the past 3 years. And about what the Jockey Club gets. Well, it's not easy to quantify the increase in receipt, or whether there will be indeed an increase in receipt. We're talking about separate pools, commingled pools, and inbound, outbound commingled pools. This is to eliminate the chance of arbitrage by bookmakers. When it comes to international races, jockey clubs of overseas jurisdictions will make use. Well, the Hong Kong Jockey Club will make use of the commingling arrangements to have discussions with overseas jurisdictions. If we are to compare with overseas jurisdictions, then you must bear in mind that Hong Kong is special. The Hong Kong Jockey Club has a monopoly. They are the only conductor in Hong Kong, but that is not the case in the UK, in the US, or Australia. So you have to clearly explain to us where the advantage lies. If it is to combat illegal bookmaking, then at least it's the justification. So what is your goal? If we look at it from the perspective of $175 million, and you use the past 3 years, well, you use the past 3 seasons, the market is small. But once you've opened up the market, we can tell from overseas market that it can be huge. Say, for example, demand coming from the mainland. So how can it combat illegal bookmaking? I think you have withheld quite a lot in your paper. If you are to make this proposal, you have to explain to us why. A lot of things are not made clear in this paper. I'm not saying that I know a lot about it, but I failed to see where the real reason is. Is it the case that you have not given us everything? The amendments may be technical, but we'd like to explain the context to you. I've explained why enabling the Jockey Club to have a commingled pool will avoid double taxation. And in relation to the arrangements, there are some points we need to address. Say, a guarantee for government revenue in the coming 3 years. Just now, Mr. Yu Si-wing have said this. What about after 3 years? If the market has grown a lot, then the revenue foregone is huge. The basis of your calculation is small. The basis of your calculation of $175 million is small. Are there any ways for us to share the increased receipt? Because we're talking about revenue foregone. Well, whether it's an increase or decrease, I think it lies with the change to a flat rate. And the flat rate is applied to the net stake receipts. Our proposal is a guarantee of 3 years. When this ordinance was enacted, that wasn't the objective. What was the spirit? It was a progressive rate. Now you change it to a flat rate. I don't mind you changing it, but you have to clearly explain to us the legislative intent. Now you propose a change. What will Hong Kong people stand to lose? You have to give us more information. DS, please explain clearly to Mr. Shek why the progressive tax rate, the duty rate is changed to a flat rate. Perhaps when you explained it, Mr. Shek was not here. You have to explain why it's changed from progressive to flat, and you have actually reduced it. So it's now it's from the 75 to 72.5, and if it is if you increase it from 60 to 72.5%, then it's all right. But previously it was progressive from 72.5% to 75%. And why do you fix it at 72.5%? Well, the reason why I wasn't here because I was in another meeting. I fully understand that there are 3 meetings being convened at the same time. I have to explain to you because you said that I wasn't here. I know there are 3 meetings going on at the same time. Mr. James told Mr. Ich Ming they're all engaged in different meetings. Please don't waste our time. No, just give me a written explanation. It's much better because we'll be in and out. Well, I heard from you that you want an explanation, not necessarily a written one. Well, you now ask for a written one, then okay, fine. I'll let other members speak. Mr. Liu Cheong Kong. Well, I would like to ask the Jockey Club to explain to us because there are a lot of unclear points. And I have already declared that I'm a director of the Jockey Club. The proposal is to combat illegal bookmaking. Currently, we use separate pools for local and overseas races. For the same race, the odds may be different. Why? I'm sure, Chairman, you know full well. For the same race, if there are Hong Kong horses and overseas horses, Hong Kong people would like to place their bets on Hong Kong horses. That's similar to overseas punters. They know more about their horses from their own country, so they would like to place bets on them. There was a race. The winning horse was a Hong Kong one, and the odds was 5-1. But in overseas, in Australia or somewhere, it's 20. There was a huge difference. So for many reasons, the odds can be different. When it comes to bookmakers and illegal bookmakers, they take advantage of the difference in odds by way of arbitrage. I can tell you that I'm a Hong Kong bookmaker. I take bets of 5. And if I see that in Australia is 20, then I will use the money to place bets in Australia to hedge my bets here. So if I spend the whole amount, then I will make a profit of 15-fold. So Hong Kong bookmakers may have an account in overseas countries and they can place bets. I don't know about the actual operation.
We're now pegged to the US dollar. If US dollar attracts an interest rate of 5% and Hong Kong dollar only 1%, then even I will know how to do arbitrage. Well, in future, for the Hong Kong Jockey Club, well, let me cite last week's race as an example. Australian bets all entered Hong Kong because they eyed our odds. Same for Melbourne Cup. For each horse running the Melbourne Cup race, if there are different pools in Hong Kong and Melbourne, giving different dividends. Well, Hong Kong colleagues should understand that sometimes if you bet on the Hong Kong pool, you may get a lower dividend. Oh, yes, I understand. Let me continue. After the amendment of the ordinance, the pool of the Hong Kong Jockey Club can be commingled with a non-local pool with standardized odds between Hong Kong and a non-local jurisdiction that can guard against arbitrage activities as a result of the odds differences, thus combating bookmaking, illegal bookmaking. And overall speaking, the arrangement will inconvenience Hong Kong bettors. For this amendment bill on the proposal of a commingled pool, given what the Deputy Secretary said, I understand that this will affect taxation arrangements and technical arrangements. In future, Hong Kong Jockey Club can calculate the odds together with the non-local pool. And there will be a settlement exercise to calculate the dividends. Well, my question is about calculation. It's not as simple as our money goes to them and their money goes to us. We'll give Hong Kong and Singapore as an example. Money won't flow from Singapore to Hong Kong and vice versa. It's only a notional arrangement. In future, there will be a settlement exercise. So, real money won't cross the borders. But there will be a settlement arrangement. After settlement, money will cross borders because for Singapore, they'll use the Singaporean pool to calculate or distribute the dividends. Money won't be remitted to Hong Kong. So in future, odds and dividends will be more stable to protect the interest of the bettors. So that's about the betting duty, the 72.5%. And for a non-local race operator, it only has to pay betting duties to that non-local jurisdiction and not to Hong Kong government. This is in compliance with the principle of taxation at source. There won't be double taxation. And some people doubt whether this commingled pooling proposal will lead to a huge increase in gambling activities. I think dividends will only increase if the odds increase. For this commingled pool exercise, the pool will be enlarged because there will be inbound commingling. But you have to distribute dividends to both local bettors and non-local bettors. So, we'll also receive income from non-local bettors. Odds may not increase necessarily as a result. Normally, the bettors will find out the odds differences, will try to find out the odds differences between different pools, but nobody will be able to do that calculation. So, for the suggestion that there will be more betting activities and dividends will hugely increase, I don't think those are founded doubts. In fact, it's international practices to have commingled pools. Hong Kong is the odd man out. So, by adopting this new arrangement, it will be conducive to the promotion of Hong Kong horse races internationally. I am also concerned about the possibility of fueling the gambling culture, but I cannot see how this commingled pool arrangement, which is a notional arrangement only in standardizing odds. So I don't see how this proposed arrangement will fuel the gambling activities in Hong Kong. Mr. James To, concerning combat of illegal bookmaking activities, well, just now our colleague cited the Queen's Cup as an example. Coincidentally, I also attended that race. Understand that at present, Hong Kong and non-local pools have different odds. Concerning Mr. Liao's remarks about the technical submissions, I was told that even in Australia, in different states of Australia, they don't have a commingled pool. And they don't have a commingled pool with other jurisdictions as well. Of course, I'm not familiar with these things as well. I also tried to dig out more information. Well, if a certain state in Australia commingles with us, you see, for the Australians, chance is higher that they bet on different pools in different states rather than flying to Hong Kong to bet. Well, I don't know whether there are historical reasons here. Maybe there were disputes in the past. Maybe there's something that I don't understand. Maybe they want to protect their own pools. But those who cited examples to me, they told me that when there are cross-state betting, the odds in different states are actually not the same. Of course, they don't have illegal bookmaking and subsequent arbitrage for cross-state betting activities. Anyway, I don't know whether the Bureau has got all these information. I just want to give you these information in advance. In paragraph 16 of your speaking notes today, a number of things are mentioned. The simulcast royalty jumping from 1.5% to 3%. How much money are you talking about? I hope that simulcast royalty is not a secret. I think you try to quote royalty levels from different jurisdictions. So I just want to know whether the differences are huge. And in footnote 7, you try to do something about the decrease of $12 million in betting duty receipts. Will you be able to do so? Now, if we do not allow for this mitigation measure, so to speak, what consequences will there be? The Jockey Club operates as an institution. If we do not allow for this mitigation measure, will it be that the Jockey Club will receive less revenue and as a result, it will do less charity? And if charitable organizations are to receive less in the end, how much less will they receive? And then for the 72.5%, well, we heard the word progressive just now. It's now saying that 72.5% is not unreasonable. So I'd like to know the justifications. Well, they will explain all those to us at the next meeting. Well, I just want to put all the questions to them. Well, I don't know how to answer your first question. I don't know whether the Deputy Secretary will be able to do so. I can only say that bookmaking is lawful in other jurisdictions. Hong Kong is unique in this sense. Jockey Club is the only lawful operator of betting activities in Hong Kong. Other jurisdictions want to model on us. Illegal bookmakers are operating in non-local jurisdictions only. Well, if there is a chance, I can go to Australia with you. Different bookmakers offer different odds. This bookmaker may give you 1, the other give you 3. Well, in New South Wales, Victoria, or Perth, they have horse races every day. Most monies go to the lawful bookmakers who collect proceeds lawfully. Well, Mr. Chairman, that's one possibility. So we need to have figures for examination. Well, the Jockey Club will come. Deputy Secretary, well, Mr. Chairman, you are a professional. I'm not. Well, papers may be submitted to the Bills Committee later. If the committee receives further papers, please pass them on to us so that we can understand the information therein more. Otherwise, on the basis of the information and questions we received today, we'll discuss with the Jockey Club. Well, Mr. James Toh, you received submissions that we did not receive. Well, Mr. Chairman, the deputations sometimes want to keep the contents of their submissions confidential for the time being. Well, for issues related to public interest, I'll disclose them, simulate them, and consult members. That's my duty. Mr. Lam Tai Fai, first of all, I have to declare that I'm a member of the selection panel of the Jockey Club. I share the views of my colleagues. At our future meetings, it's better for the Jockey Club to send people here to give us specific explanation, because all these are very technical and professional. Otherwise, Mr. Chairman, we'll have to trouble you to give us explanation. Well, Mr. Chairman, you have much richer experience and knowledge about horse racing than all of us. Mr. Chairman, whatever avenues or methods are available for the government to combat illegal activities, will support them. If they're of the view that a commingled pool will be able to help curb a gambling culture, will support the government. Still, we have to be very careful because this is legislation. Once something is legislated upon, all of us are duty-bound to observe it. Well, I have personal feelings about that. When Hong Kong horses go to a non-local jurisdiction to compete, Hong Kong bettors will very naturally bet on Hong Kong horses, whether or not you call these emotional or sentimental. Odds in Hong Kong are different from those in other jurisdictions. That's why there are concerns that illegal bookmakers will make use of the odds differences to do arbitrage. In future, when we have a commingled pool, odds will be standardized.
From my experience, Hong Kong horses have higher odds overseas. And a few years ago, I realized that the odds in Japan is higher than that are those in Hong Kong. If they are standardized, Hong Kong punters placing bets for profit or for leisure, they of course will look at the odds to see how much they will get back. They will get the impression that the dividend distribution will be higher like overseas. But Mr. Liao mentioned about something else, that in turn it will attract more people to gamble. It will heighten the gambling atmosphere. But that is what you would like to avoid. Well, in the past, maybe it was only an odds of 2, but overseas is 5, and now and after they've been standardized is 2.5 or 3.5. Then more people will place bets, and they will place bigger bets, and in turn the gambling atmosphere will be heightened. But as more people are placing bets, the odds will drop. Members of the public are not as knowledgeable like the chairman. A lot of these punters are doing it recreationally. Now, of course, some people they may spend their entire savings on it. So how will the odds change in the future? I asked this question after thinking about it for quite some time. Of course, every punter would like to know about it, so you have to be very careful in explaining this to us. Otherwise, it will be heightened the gambling atmosphere. I think members now grasp the fact that a commingled pool can reduce arbitrage. But now members ask for more detailed information. Say, for example, to give explanations about individual races. Well, I will talk to the jockey club, because when it comes to individual races, it's not appropriate for us to comment on them. May I elaborate? I am concerned about the gambling atmosphere. I can say for sure that with the standardized odds, yes, arbitrage will be eliminated. But we are talking about the mass punters. They place bets in Hong Kong. In the past, overseas odds are higher than those in Hong Kong, and with the alignment, then local odds are higher. Say in the past it's an odd of 2, but now it's 3.5. So they would place bigger bets, or more people will place bets. So you want to eliminate arbitrage, and at the same time you don't want to heighten gambling atmosphere. You have to be very careful. And also there is the factor of government revenue being affected. So I'm sure that the Jockey Club has done a detailed analysis before making the proposal. If after the change a lot more people start gambling, then this will be something that we don't want to see. Your stakes will not be smaller than mine, because I only place bets of $10, and I share it with my wife. So your bets will not be smaller than mine. Well, I'd like to correct you. There are bets of $5 or $2. Now I'm talking about different types of bets. I think we're trying to understand why this proposal is made. We support it, but we wonder why it's 72.5 and not 75. What about 73 or 73.5? It's quite arbitrary. They use the lowest. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. And they guarantee you of $175 million. I would wonder why you would give me such a favorable proposal. What happens 3 years later? If the market increased a lot, then we will lose out in the end. We're talking about a business here. I want some explanation. The BDO betting duties ordinance include progressive betting duty rates. There must be some kind of consideration given back then. Why is it changed? Legislatures don't like to see structures changes all the time. We're not here to serve you. Even when a university wants to change its constitution, we will set up a bills committee. We're talking about public interest in the form of betting duty. You want to combat illegal bookmakers, then the Hong Kong Jockey Club should do it. The bill should not be footed by Hong Kong people. The information you seek is on the internet. The Australian system is different. Betting duty in Australia is in the form of a federal tax and a local tax, so it's very different. So we shouldn't compare ourselves with others. We should focus on the local situation. There are different odds for different types of bets you place. In the UK, the Royal Ascot is the same. We don't have to copy. We have to think about what our legislative intent is. What do we stand to lose as a result of the change? What will we benefit? Is illegal bookmaking so serious? I think the Jockey Club will definitely benefit from it. Yes, they do charity. They may be Robin Hood, but when they're doing charity, they are presenting opportunities for people to gamble. So you should expect other problems brought by this proposal. Why do we give monopoly to the Jockey Club? Why can't the Jockey Club change its management? Why do we let the Jockey Club control it all? I can elevate it to a very high level. They are given the license. How is it managed? Is it properly done? If they are allowed to make money, then we need to look at how it is managed. DS.
Mr. Chairman, we have to be very stringent with this bill. Members' views are very clear. Later, we'll explain more the 72.5% as a progressive duty. Well, this $175 million is really not a huge sum of money. They are calculating the average in the past 3 years only. Well, I understand, Mr. Chairman, I'm very careful with figures. We'll compare the figure with $12 million. Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm not stupid. 12 million is the threshold, but that's not about betting duty. 175 million looks a huge sum of money, so we may think that this is a guarantee for us. Why is the Jockey Club giving us a guarantee? We all know how to calculate odds. Mr. Lam Tai Fai. Mr. Chairman, to follow up on the views of Mr. Abraham Sheikh and Mr. James Toh, I'd like to emphasize that before the public hearing, the Jockey Club can, through various avenues, in writing or by meeting with us, answer all these questions. If we cannot answer these questions now, it will be even more troublesome at a public hearing. 72.5% is to be a fixed rate. We must have some explanation as to why it should be 72.5%. Why not 73 or 72 or in between? There are many decimal points. For the guarantee period of 3 years, why 3? Why not 2.5? Why 4? Why not 4? Why not 5? We have to be very clear about all these figures. And as I said just now, $175 million should not be a fabricated figure or a figure obtained in a dream. There must be strong justifications for it. May we have the justification so as to set our minds at ease? And then in 3 years' time, as Mr. James Toh asked, will everything be open? We can have any possibility. That is, after we've said, okay, in 3 years' time, the Jockey Club can do whatever it wants. You have to allay public worries and doubts, as well as the worries of councillors. The Deputy Secretary should ask the Jockey Club to come up with some clear explanations before the public hearing. Because of filibustering, we treasure each and every meeting. If we are to argue during the public consultation session, it will be very shameful. All right, there are questions that the Deputy Secretary may not be able to answer now. We would like to obtain answers from the Jockey Club. Mr. Martin Liao, should we ask the Inland Revenue Department to come as well? Well, she has asked her colleagues from the Inland Revenue Department. None of them wanted to speak. Well, we have colleagues from the IRD. But Mr. James Toh's questions are hypothetical. Well, can you let me chair the meeting? Let me finish first. I'll come to you later. Well, colleagues' strong views are that the Jockey Club should come. But whether or not they'll come, you should try to do your best. This bill is introduced by the Bureau. But of course, the Jockey Club is leading the whole exercise. If they choose not to attend our meetings, they can provide answers in writing. Well, just now I mentioned 2 dates. 15th of May, next Wednesday, 8:45 to 10:30. And then 21st, Tuesday, 2:30 to 4:30. In fact, we can have that up to 5:30 p.m. Some colleagues would like to have the Jockey Club before the public hearing, as Mr. Lam Tai Fai said. That's a good suggestion. We would like to clarify a lot of things first before we receive views from the deputations. Now, whether or not we are going to have the next meeting on the 15th, or should we leave everything to the 21st? Now, on the 15th of May, from 8:45 to 10:30, we can have another meeting. Shall we fix that first? And then the government can tell the Jockey Club to send somebody to come. I don't know whether they're going to send one colleague or more than one colleague. Should the Bills Committee issue a direct invitation to them. We can, of course, relay your invitation to them before your clerk actually sends the invitation letter. We can tell the Jockey Club in advance what requests and questions members have, but I'd like the Bills Committee to issue a formal invitation to the Jockey Club. Well, we can write to the Jockey Club, or even more expeditiously, I can telephone them. Then they will know of the invitation immediately. But liaison work must be done by the government. This bill is from the government, from the Jockey Club. You would like us to enact it in this legislative session. So, colleagues, no objection for having the next meeting on the 15th of May, right? And the Jockey Club should come to explain policy matters. If the government does not match our work, then there's nothing we can do. You see, at the end of a session, we're always in a rush and we have to work very hard. Now, this issue is very precious. We'll issue an invitation letter, but government, would you please give them a timetable? Mr. Martin Liu, you would like to say something? Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go back to Mr. Lam Tai-Fai's question. Why 3 years? Why 72.5? Why this much? Blah, blah, blah. Well, all these are government decisions. Maybe we need officials from the Inland Revenue Department. The Jockey Club can't answer those questions because the decision is made by the government. Well, IRD officials are here. Ms. Jie or Mr. Hong, do you have anything to say? Well, for the progressive rate, why 72.5? According to existing laws, after you pass a band, you will jump to another band. Now it's 72.5 to 75. And from 72.5 to 73, that is the next band. You need $11 billion before you jump to the next band. But the amount of bets is very far away from that. On the average, in the past 3 years, is only $240 million. Given that situation, given the bets are so far away from the threshold, it is reasonable to fix it at 72.5. So is over $200 million is 72.5, and between 72.5 to 73, you need $11 billion. That is 50 times the existing amounts of bet. Mr. Lam Tai-Fai? Mr. Chairman, the government's presumption is not realistic. So many illegal bookmakers do arbitrage because there are benefits, say because of the odds differences. For these bettors, they won't go away. They won't disappear. These gamblers will not disappear. In particular, in Southeast Asia, we have many gamblers. Illegal bookmaking, arbitrage activities. Well, even without all these, they won't disappear. So, there's no answer from either you or me for that presumption. So, don't think that all these gamblers will disappear. Everything will be very calm. No. There will be other methods from the illegal bookmakers to attract the gamblers. Well, she mentioned the discrepancy between $200 million and $11 billion. Well, what she was saying is that all the way from $200 million to $11 billion, you will only remain at 72.5. Is there any more supplement from you? Well, Mr. Abraham Sheikh has left. He mentioned $175 million. This guarantee is like this. If the proceeds exceed that threshold, we'll receive more. I think he understands that. That is, whichever is higher. He understands that. Well, my feeling is that the government never suffers. As Mr. Lam Tai Fai said, it won't be just $240 million. You'll receive more, you'll pocket more. It's just that you won't say it. So different colleagues have different views. Some colleagues are worried that you collect more betting duty, thus fueling the gambling atmosphere. Some worry that the treasury will get less. Mr. Wu Chi-wai, very simple, Mr. Chairman. Well, we heard that the 72.5% was based on the betting situation in the past 3 years. But we have a longer history than that. Can you give us some basic data for the preceding years as well? And then for the Jockey Club, well, from what I heard, they want to reduce arbitrage on the part of illegal bookmakers. And they'd like to have some settlement arrangements and negotiation with non-local betting operators. Can we have some relevant examples? For example, has the Jockey Club carried out any estimation about the non-local situations? And according to their estimation, how much money will flow back to the local pool? Well, we'll talk to the Jockey Club and provide the information to members. All right. Well, this meeting should end at 10:30. If there's no more question from colleagues, well, we'll fix our next meeting for next Wednesday. And the Secretariat will upload a notice to the electrical website and issue invitation letters to the Jockey Club and the 18 district councils. The Secretariat will do that. And if colleagues feel that a deputation should come, tell the Secretariat and we'll invite it. All right. If there's no further question, meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.